Hi everybody, welcome to another Rick's Picks. Today I'm going to be doing my review of Flying Fist He-Man by Mattel. Now, I do admit this wasn't one of my favorite versions of He-Man, though he is cool enough. He just wasn't one of my top tier He-Men, but I've been really loving this new Eternia line, so I'm really curious to see what they do with this figure. So, with that being said, first off, I want to thank everybody who subscribed. You're very much appreciated. And for anybody who watches this video and like it, I do ask that you please subscribe and also check out my Masters of the Universe playlist. So, without any further ado, let's get to the review. Alright, so here he is in packaging. I do love the packaging for him. So first off, you got a small window here to where you can see him and his shield. You got this beautiful artwork here of him. I like this pose that he's in. You got Too Bad over here. You can see part of Eternia right behind there. Masters of the Universe New Eternia. Spinning around this way. You can see Flying Fist He-Man. Right. Also on top, you got your 30 points of articulation, age restriction, and Mattel. Come around here. You get more of the same art. So you got the sorcerers here. You got more of the Eternia play set. Alright. Spinning around here. You get a nice picture of the figure, some of his play features, a little bit about him, and the other figures that are part of this wave. Alright, get that glare out of there. Okay. Come around to this side. You get a nice figure profile and a headshot. I really do like this picture. That looks really cool. All right, back around to the front. The top, you got Masterverse. And then underneath, you got your legal. So, with all that being said, let's open him up and see what he's about. All right, so here he is out of packaging. First off, we're going to start off with his points of articulation. Now, I did remove his armor for this segment just because of the factor that his armor restricts certain points of articulation. So let's get into this. First off, his head does move. All right. He has a shoulder joint with a swivel. Now, his armor does restrict that just a little bit, but not a whole lot. All right. So you do have an elbow joint with a wrist joint. All right. Get this other arm up. Now you have a joint here under the ribs, and that's what the armor really does stop you from moving, because once he has the armor on, you can't get this part of his body moving because it stops it from doing that. All right. And then you also got one here at the hips. All right. And now he has a joint here at the thigh. As you notice, the leg goes off to the side. And that's just because of how his loincloth is designed. I'm sure if like you pull the loincloth up, it might, whoops, fall over. It might go forward. But because of this piece here, the leg goes off to the side. All right. So you also have a swivel. All right. A knee joint. There it goes. All right, a swivel at the top of the boot. And then last but not least, you also have an ankle joint. So all his joints work pretty well. I don't have any issues with any of that. So now let's take a closer look at this figure. So first off, I do like the head sculpt. I think it looks really nice. I do also like the factor that they gave him more of a dirty blonde look instead of like a bright blonde. So let's look at the head from each side. So you have that side there. This side here. All right. I also like this little symbol that they put on his loincloth. That looks kind of cool. And even the design to his boots are pretty neat. So let's give him the rotation. We come around to this side here. Pretty much standard. Nothing that spectacular to it. Same with the back. Nice muscle design and stuff. And they do actually, and one of the neat things about these new Eternia figures, they do actually give them like I guess you could call it like a skin graft, to where the skin is textured, which gives it more of a natural look. So I do like that. All right, the other side, pretty much the same. I'm going to bring this arm down so you can kind of see this gauntlet piece here. That doesn't look too bad as well. All right, so that is his points of articulation and a little bit closer look at the figure. All right, so first thing I did was I did put the armor back on just because of the factor. To put the armor on, you have to take the head off, and then you put the armor over the head, the neck sculpt, and then you button it up back up in the back. So instead of doing all that on screen, I just did it off screen. So first thing about this armor is I do like the front design. I think that looks pretty cool. The one thing I would have liked to have seen on this, and this is a personal thing, is I would have liked to have seen the armor be more of a chrome look to it, just like the original figure. The original figure, all that silver was chrome. I would have really liked to have seen that. Just, I don't know, either it's the gearhead in me or the metalhead. I don't know, but I always love chrome. So take a look at it from this side here. You'll see a little bit of the underpinning of the armor. And you come around to the back of it. This is the spot where you hook in the piece so his flying fist device hooks onto the back of that. I don't know exactly what you call it, but I'll just call it the flying fist device. And you come to this side. Now, this is what I like about this armor. I love these line heads on either side. I think that looks really cool. It adds character to him. I overall like that. I think that looks really cool. I do really like those line designs. And back around to the front. Now, I think these can come off. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, there it goes. Yeah, so as you see, the shoulder pieces can come off. So if you want more of the traditional look, because the original figure didn't have those, and you want it without the shoulder piece, here, let's give that a little bit of a rotation. You could do that as well. That's not an issue. Matter of fact, while I have this off, let's get a little bit better look at that shoulder piece. Okay. And as you saw, it popped off pretty easily, and it'll go on just as well. There. So now let's start looking at his other accessories. So first off, he comes with 2 golden fists. Guess he has a little bit of the touch of the Midas. Here's the other one. All right. Got the piece for his weapon that hooks onto his back. So this is that. All right. You have his flying fist shield. All right. And yes, it does have the piece on it that rotates and spins. Flip it around this way. That's how it's going to hook onto his arm. All right. And then you have his weapon here. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure what exactly this thing is called other than the flying fist piece, but this does spin. Now, the neat thing about this, spin it around to this side here. The original one for the original He-Man was just a black plastic piece that came like this and had like a C-clamp or something that just fit over his arm with a peg in it. So I like that they added a whole bunch of extra details. So if you look in here, there's like pistons and springs. Then there's like, gears and stuff like that. I'll try to get this at the top of the neck. You got a nice handle, and then you got this nice little clamp. So they definitely put some effort into this. I will give them that to make this look a little bit cooler than the original one. Oh, and it also has a neat little spike at the top. So now that we looked at everything, let's see how well this stuff works with them. So first off, we're going to start with this side with his weapon here. All right, so that hooks into the hand pretty nice. All right, there we go. Now, these fingers are pretty loose on these guys, so you should be able to work this thing on here. All right, there it goes. All right. Wild. So there it is. You want to use it on that side. All Now, I guess it was more intended to be on this side because as far as I'm aware, this thing's supposed to be on the outside, but it still looks cool just as is. Now, I don't have any issues with it looking like that. And now for a shield, we're probably going to have to take the hand off to get the shield on, which is no issues. At least I hope it ain't. There it goes. Now, his gauntlets do come off, so if you don't want him to have the gauntlet, you could do that as well. Now, the shield might even fit better without the gauntlet. Same with the flying fist weapon might, but we'll see how well it works with. So get that up on there. Get this other piece in. This piece don't want to line up. You know what you could actually do, and I think I did this with another He-Man, or actually I think I did it with Too Bad. There's a similar one. Let's see if I can hold up. Get that off of there. Get this strap on his hand. That. And then get a hold of him. There we go. Okay. There it goes. It's in. All right. So what I wound up doing with the shield, I'm going to move his arm out like this. It's like it's a little loose. I haven't. Arm isn't all the way in. But what I wound up doing with the shield is, if I can get him to cooperate, is I put the strap through his hand and then put the other part through. So that way it makes it a little bit more secure to hold. Like I said, I think I did the same thing with Too Bad. So it does work on them. Spin them around this way. Look at it from the back. So that does work. I don't have any issues with how the shield or how his weapon comes on. Now, spin them around to the back here. You got this. What this does is it goes, hooks in at the top. All right. And comes down. Spinning around this way. It might have to go on a particular way. I hate to say it, this might have been easier to put on while the armor was off. I got the one side down. All right, so this piece here, I had to take the armor off to put it on because the armor is a soft plastic. So it wants to fight you a little bit getting on, but once it's on, it's nice and secure. So we're going to take this out of his hand. Eventually, there it goes. And see how well it hooks on here? Right. There we go. That hooks on very well. No issues with that. And now let's get into his gold fist. Right, so this should come off pretty easily now. All right. All right, so there we go. So the two gold fists fit on fine. No issues there. Not exactly sure why they decided to give them those. I mean, they look cool like this, I guess. Might have been better if they would have had like maybe one be closed, one open fist, just in case you wanted to have his device with the gold fist. But they look cool enough. So let's get into my final thoughts with this figure. So first off, I do like the overall look to him. I think he's a really good looking figure. I like the factor that they added the lion heads on each shoulder. I think that gives them a little bit more character. So I do like that. Um, all his joints work very well. I don't have any issues with any of his joints. All his accessories and hands swapped out very well. No issues with any of that. Probably the only thing I would have any issues with, and this is a personal preference, is I would have liked to have seen his armor be a chrome because the original figure did have a chrome finish to his armor, so I would have liked to have seen that. And just because of the fact that, well, I like chrome. So that's my only issue with him. It's a minor issue. So would I recommend this figure? Yes, I would. I think he's a good looking figure. I've been really liking this whole new Eternia line. I think they're really neat concepts between a mix between the original figure and some concept art and what have you. So I would recommend this figure to go with your Masters of the Universe collectibles. So with that being said, I hope you guys did like this review. If you did, go ahead and check out my Masters of the Universe playlist and hit that like, share, and subscribe. They're all small clicks for you, but it really helps this channel grow. So until the next one, late.